This is the Haulin Assets podcast where we show you how to start and run your own trucking company. Ever wanted to go out on your own? Follow Chris as he goes through the highs and lows of running on his own authority. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Haulin Assets podcast. I am Craig, your host, and over there he is...
Chris.
Still
the same guy. Can't get rid of me.
Well, now you're not the same guy anymore because we can see you, Chris. So for anybody listening in, we are doing something a little bit different this week. If you go check out the Facebook page, it may be on the Facebook page, and maybe go check out the YouTube channel that we'll put this on.
Yeah, the Haulin Assets YouTube channel. That's probably the best place to put it.
Yeah, go check out the new YouTube channel. This is going to be on there. We are recording this, so welcome to anybody who's watching. And if you'd like to watch, we'd love to have you.
Does that mean I have to smile now?
No.
Okay,
no, I'll take care of that. I have this
You've
weird,
got the pretty face,
so this weird
nice
perma smile,
hair.
Something like that. So we are glad to venture into a new territory with the Haulin Assets podcast, video style. So anyway, we'd love to see you there. I'll also remind you, I've mentioned the Facebook page already, but go to haulinassetsllc.com and go check out the full show notes and the documentation that we have for these episodes. You can also go to both of those places and now the YouTube channel to comment and let us know what you think of these episodes, what you want us to talk about in the future, and so on and so forth. So today, Chris, we are going to be talking about the truck again. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about this third truck that you purchased, but we're getting a little bit more information about it today. But before we do that, of course, I love talking about Tales from the Road. And you did a road trip, non-truck
I did.
Road trip, right?
So after 2 weeks in the truck, 2 back-to-back weeks in the truck, it was my kids' spring break, and we took a road trip as a family and got to drive one of the routes that's pretty common that we started out in Texas and drove back to Utah, kind of the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and kind of got to share with my family a little bit of life on the road and drive through some of the places that I drive through and experience some of the things that I have been able to do, and then also some of the things that I've wanted to do as I've passed through those cities. And want to talk a little bit about some of those. I think there's some pretty good things that drivers can do on a 10-hour break, or if they're doing a 34-hour break somewhere, a reset. There's some fun activities that we did.
Such as, you got any good examples?
Yeah, so we obviously going from the Dallas-Fort Worth area into Salt Lake, you're going to drive through Amarillo. And in Amarillo, we did a couple cool things. There's this steakhouse. It's called the Big Texan Steak Ranch. It's the home of the 32-ounce steak challenge, or 72-ounce. 72. That's 4.5 pounds of steak.
I thought you were going to tell me that this was like a nice, classy French joint that serves you a half...
in Amarillo? Come on.
A half ounce of, of steak.
Have you ever been to Texas?
I'm kidding, man.
They don't do that there.
No.
No, so yeah, it's a 72-ounce steak challenge. And if you can eat... It's crazy. You have to eat a 72-ounce steak. I think it's 2 potatoes, a salad, a roll, and shrimp cocktail. And if you can eat all that in under an hour, you get it for free.
In an hour?
In an hour.
It's 72 ounce. That's a lot. That's a lot of steak.
You want to know what the record is?
Do I?
Yeah, I guess.
What?
So it was set by a 125-pound woman.
Okay.
4 minutes and 58 seconds.
Oh, jeez.
Can you imagine that?
Did she survive?
She had a second one.
Oh,
She's got the record for 2 and 3, I think, as well. I'm pretty sure it's the same lady. Yeah, it's crazy.
It does sound fun, but
it is fun, and it's really trucker friendly. There's several truck stops in the area, and they have this free limo service. They'll come pick you up in a limo, take you to the steakhouse. You can eat your meal, and they'll drive you back. It's awesome. It's a lot of fun.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else? Any other highlights from the road?
Yeah. So also in Amarillo, anybody that's driven through Amarillo, you see this spot off to the side of the road that has these cars that are buried halfway down into the dirt, and it's right on I-40, and it's all these old Cadillacs that they've buried, and you can go and spray paint them and just graffiti them.
Really?
Yeah. So we stopped with it was fun. My kids loved it. We stopped, and The wind was blowing like 30 miles an hour. And so my youngest kid would, don't pee into the wind. Don't spray paint into the wind either. My daughter learned that the hard way.
Lost a few brain cells that day.
Yeah. It was pretty funny watching them trying to battle the wind and spray paint the Cadillacs.
That's pretty good.
So that was pretty fun. Then we, going through, we stopped at one of the truck stops that I love and stopped quite regularly to fuel. Russell's Truck and Travel Center had lunch there. They have this really cool museum with a bunch of cars, old cars and new cars. There's like 4 Mustang Shelby GTs.
Wow.
That are pretty sweet.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And a bunch of older cars. They've got like a almost 100-year-old Model T. It's a pretty cool truck stop, pretty cool place to stop.
Yeah, very nice.
And then the last thing I want to talk about was one of the things, this has been on my bucket list for most of my life. And most people may not know this, but Albuquerque, New Mexico is like one of the hot air balloon capitals of the world. I
did know that, actually. Yeah.
So
that's cool.
We did a hot air balloon ride in Albuquerque.
You went up.
We
then.
did.
Okay.
Yeah, we did it.
Nice.
It's one of those things that especially if you're doing like a 34-hour reset in Albuquerque or can make that work, I would highly recommend it. It was a ton of fun. We saw a beaver going over the Rio Grande River. Lots of different cool sights, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, well, this sounds like a heck of a road trip. It sounds like a lot of fun.
Didn't kill any kids. We had a good time.
Well, if that's your benchmark, I got to say that's a pretty low bar to clear.
I'm not the easiest dad to live with.
Okay, so let's go, Chris, to our topic du jour, because we're sticking with our French theme here. Our topic du jour
You're going to turn off all of our listeners. Nobody's going to want to listen anymore. You speaking in French.
Sorry. Go back to enjoying your freedom fries, everyone.
There we go. That's better.
The topic is the new truck, and you wanted to get a little bit more in depth into this. So last time we talked about, I think it was last time, maybe 2 episodes ago, we talked about the new Freightliner that you purchased and some of the things that you liked and didn't like about it after a couple of days on the road. But you wanted to get into a little more detail about the purchase process, the decision process that you went through for getting this truck, right? To give a little more insight. Yeah.
So you always hear in the trucking industry, people talking about, do you buy new trucks? Do you buy used trucks? What's better? And I don't know that I still have a great answer for that. Most of the bigger fleets that supposedly know what they're doing pretty much buy all new, or they lease stuff. They use it for 3 years and then turn it in and go get a newer vehicle. I think the verdict's still out of whether that's the right way to go or not. And so this is going to kind of give us an opportunity as Haulin Assets to kind of be the guinea pigs and show people. So, we decided for several reasons to get a new truck. We've got a couple other that are on order, and 3 Freightliners.
Now, it was your decision-making process. Did it include, I just want to know what this is like to have a new truck so that I can tell my audience
about it?
That's part
of it, yeah, absolutely.
Really? Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. Just curious.
That was definitely part of it.
Okay. So what you purchased a new truck with, you said Detroit engine and all the stuff that comes with the new trucks, the bells and whistles that you got on the new automatic truck.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit more about that process, the decision process.
Well, so part of it was the fact, and we've talked a little bit about this before, is just that it's a Detroit engine. So, Detroit is one of the engines that you can go to just about any decent size service center and they can work on it.
They've got the parts, they've got the expertise.
Exactly. And they've got the computer systems. Like Detroit Diesel has given basically almost free reign to the computer system that you plug in to diagnose an engine, and about anybody can diagnose problems and repair them. So that's like the exact opposite of PACCAR and Volvo, who pretty much lock down and only allow a limited number of authorized service centers to work on their engines. And so that's going to be one of the nice things about Detroit is hopefully it'll make it easier to find a place that can get us in and out quickly when there are things that need to be fixed on a truck.
Okay. And is another idea here that you the profitability over time will look different and hopefully end up in your favor, I imagine. We talked about repairs and maintenance. Hopefully that will be lower. So if the math in my head is right, the idea is you spend more on a truck now than you would, but you're going to end up spending less, hopefully, in repairs and maintenance over your time with the truck. And then, as the truck ages, that's going to change. You'll spend more in those repairs and maintenances, or you may end up seeing a situation where, hey, you know what? It makes sense to sell the truck, get another new one because I like having that the low repairs and maintenance cost, and then do it over again. And that'll be part of the experiment with this for the next 18, 24 months with this truck, right?
Or even longer, really. I mean, we plan on keeping these new trucks for a pretty good, decent chunk of time. And that's really, so you've kind of touched on one of the two biggest reasons of why we decided to go with a new truck versus a used. And that's really just kind of the overall profitability, because in theory, it should have lower costs. You buy a brand new piece of equipment, you're spending a lot of money. And so the truck payment is going to be way bigger than it is with a used truck. But the theory
can we talk about that actually? How much bigger?
You know what? I can't remember exactly. I would say our current trucks, the payments are around $1,500 a month.
The used ones.
The used ones.
Okay.
I think on these new trucks, if I remember right, the payments around $3,000, so almost double.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, but that is significant.
It is significant.
You'd better make up a lot of that repairs and maintenance.
You've got some ground to make up in repairs and maintenance, but we're spending on, especially on the green truck, that's about what we're spending.
That was the first one.
$1,000 to $2,000 a month in repairs.
Wow. Okay.
So ideally, the thought and the theory is it's going to make up that difference. And then also the newer trucks supposedly have better fuel economy. Mm-hmm. You get some stuff there. You should have increased revenue with less downtime. Hopefully that's what ends up happening, is you've got less downtime, so those wheels are turning on a more regular basis, and obviously that's where you make your money. Now, with that being said, I mean, this is all in good theory. That's what the arguments everybody makes.
Yep.
And is that really what happens in reality? I don't know. That's what we're going to find out. I hope so.
This insert cliche about rubber meeting road or whatever.
That's a good trucking cliche right there.
There you go. Okay, so what is your plan then on how long to hold on to it? Because, I said maybe 24 months. You're saying maybe longer than that. What is your current thinking on how long to hold on to it?
Talking to people that own or manage larger fleets, I've heard people say everything from they keep them for 250,000 miles and no matter what, go get a new one, or they keep them, 5 years or 500,000 miles.
Whichever comes first.
And that kind of seems like the most normal, because a lot of especially small to mid-sized fleets, they'll get an extended warranty that takes them up through 500,000 miles. And then that's when they'll sell the truck. And we've talked about that in some of the other truck buying episodes earlier, that 500,000 mark is pretty common.
Right.
Where you start seeing a lot of fleets
offloading their older equipment.
And I think we would like to extend that at least another year. I think our idea at this point is we want to be able to hold on to them for about 6 years. 600,000 miles, is essentially get another year on top of what other fleets are doing. And because that's where, if it's still relatively reliable, not spending a whole ton of money in repairs at that point, you can hopefully, really get some good profitability out of it that last year or so.
Mm-hmm. Well, like I said last time, this is going to be really interesting, not just to revisit in 6 years, or 3 years or whatever, but it's going to be interesting to revisit this topic monthly or nearly monthly, as we can talk about how it's affecting the profit and loss in an ongoing way.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
It should be really cool.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to watch, and I think it'll be beneficial for everybody.
Yeah,
for us as a company, and then also for all of our listeners. And if we do find this is really the best way to go, it'll, most people can't jump into a brand new piece of equipment right when they first start a trucking company, but that can be a goal to get to that point after a certain period of time.
Yeah, if this ends up making sense.
Yeah.
So what else do we want to talk about today, Chris?
So with the truck, I mentioned that there were kind of two big reasons that we decided to go with a new truck versus a used truck. The second biggest reason is ideally this will hopefully reduce the stress on just about everybody.
Okay.
Because, used equipment it causes stress. There's unpredictable breakdowns. Luckily we've really only had the one breakdown where it left us stranded and we had to get towed.
Right, I remember that. Was that the best hooker in Ogallala?
That was, yeah.
Okay, I remember that story.
Lonesome Dove right there. Yeah. So that one, and then we had the engine blow, which is really uncommon for a truck with as few as miles as ours had. But with that being said, there's still always ongoing repair and maintenance issues. I mean, that the truck almost every other time or so that it's back in at home station, we're having to have some kind of repair maintenance done on it, and so it's just
So it's annoying.
It's annoying
and stressful. Like
it's stressful for us as the owners. It's stressful for the driver to have to kind of deal with and work through, and so
the driver's not working.
Yeah,
and so they're less happy.
And we've usually been able to turn them around pretty quick so that it's not really interrupting the driver's
day to day.
It's more there's things like a hood latch breaks, and so they've got to deal with that on the road and do a fix themselves to get themselves back on the road. Or it's things like that. It's you're dealing with things that you shouldn't really have to deal with on the road, or a truck like right now. We just had to get the steer tires replaced on the green truck, and the alignment had gone out. It seems like this alignment's lasting for about a year, and it's causing little issues and unusual wear on the steer tires, and just kind of dealing with those kind of things. It's just really not fun for anybody.
And the stress, this is something that it's a bit of a hobby horse of mine, that time and stress are just as important a factor as money when you're considering, your career, your sanity, your whatever. Money is important, and you need to be making money and doing what you can in that way. But if it's taking all of your time so that you have nothing, you can't do anything else, or if it's causing you so much stress that it's affecting your health or your happiness, then those are things to consider as well. So
absolutely.
So even if it ends up costing to throw a number out there, an extra $100 or $200 a month to have a new truck versus a used truck, what about the stress cost?
From OnePlus 8 Pro.
Wait, now we've got my Echo device yelling at me here in the room.
That's funny.
So anyway, let's move on then from this.
Speaking of avoiding stress, one of the biggest stressors, obviously, that can ever happen in the trucking world is getting in an accident. We talked a little bit about with the new truck, it's got some accident avoidance equipment, and the jury is definitely still out on that, whether we think it's worth it or not. There were some things that I really liked about it, like the adaptive cruise control, I think is great, but the lane departure stuff, I'm not turning into such a big fan of. It's just annoying, and it's
a little too overbearing.
A little too overbearing. That's a great way to put it. And so I don't know that we're ordering our next truck that we're getting is not going to have it on it, and so we're going to kind of take the pros and cons and see what we like the best. But one of the funny things is some contracts require it. Like I'm pretty sure FedEx contracts, if you're doing stuff for FedEx Ground, your trucks have to have that accident avoidance stuff on it. And
really?
So that's something that you kind of need to keep in mind. There may be reasons to have that in your fleet. I'm not sure about it, but some of the other bigger contractors like UPS or Amazon, they may require it too. And so that's something that as you're buying trucks, and especially new trucks, you may want to keep in mind. You may need to have it based on who you're hauling for. Kind
of opens up some doors for you potentially. To have different styles of trucks that can do different things.
Yeah,
interesting.
absolutely.
I'd never considered that ever.
Yep.
So that's cool. What else on the new truck do we want to talk about? Do you feel like I
think that's about it.
You've got that one pretty well covered?
Yep.
Now, before we started, Chris, you mentioned to me that there had been some challenges this month in the company, and I wanted to ask you about that. So as we shift away from the truck, let's go to that. What kind of challenges did you run into?
I'll get into the specifics in just a minute, but before we kind of start talking about the challenges, I want to talk about a book that has taught me some really good principles, a book that I really, really like, that has kind of helped me keep things in perspective as we've gone through some of these challenges. And, Haulin Assets over the last couple of years has had its fair share of challenges, just like any company does. No matter how well a company's working, there's always going to be challenges. So the book is called The Top 10 Distinctions Between Millionaires and the Middle Class. It's by Keith Cameron Smith. It's a super good book. It's a simple book to read. It's pretty short, but it's really one of those things that can help you change your mindset. And really, we talked about, especially early on in this podcast, of changing your mindset from that of a driver to that of an owner.
Right.
And this is one of those things that can really, in some ways, even take that mindset to the next level. And it's a really good book. Highly recommend it. Look it up, read it. It'll be good for you.
Okay. So what sort of things did this book impart to you?
So he talks about 10 differences between, or 10 distinctions, I think is what he calls them, between millionaires and the middle class. And the first one that he talks about, and the one that I kind of want to focus on today, is that millionaires think long-term, where the middle class has more of a short-term thinking, short-term mentality. And he kind of breaks that down into different economic classes. He says that the poor people typically think on a week-to-week basis, and middle class typically thinks month to month, whereas rich think more on year to year. And he even breaks that down even further and says the very rich typically think about things from one decade to another. So their perspectives are just, as you increase that economic ladder, your perspective and your goals and what you're looking for become really different.
Okay.
And he says, to kind of go along with that each group has a kind of a different primary goal. And he says that the poor typically are, their goal is really survival. Like, what am I going to eat for my next meal?
Yeah, it's got to be.
And that's really what it boils down to. Whereas the middle class, the thing that's the most important to them and their goal is comfort and just being comfortable. Living in comfort, I guess, is the best way to put it.
I'm raising my hand right now because, hello.
That's you.
I must be a middle-class mindset.
Yeah. And then he says the rich, the thing that's important to them is freedom. And he says all of those, whether your survival, comfort, or freedom is your goal, that's really kind of what sets the precedence in your life and what it drives what you focus on, right? And he stresses that it's important for us to think and dream about where we want to be 5, 10, or even 20 years down the road. And that helps us kind of get a little bit better of a long-term perspective. And if you want to make that shift from middle class to a rich person or a millionaire, you've got to be able to look at things at a much longer perspective than just a month. Because if you're just looking month to month to month to month, or week to week to week, you're never going to improve your situation. Whereas if you're looking year over year, or even decade over decade, that's when you really start to see, okay, I'm gonna do these things and set these goals to do better. And having that perspective helps you set long-term goals, which is really what the millionaires do differently than middle class. And that does, one of the things that is a benefit of that is that long-term perspective. Those long-term goals help you persevere when you go through challenges. And that's really kind of, the thing that has that I feel like I've kind of learned, or reading that book, it's one of the things that I learned from it.
So this makes sense. I suppose I would have a whole lot of questions that I'm sure the book would answer if I read it cover to cover. But how does this relate to what you want to talk about as far as trucking? I can see the simple, maybe surface level, hey, think further ahead than next week. But yeah, dig into it for me.
So one of the things is that when you've got that long-term perspective, you're willing to persevere through short-term difficulties and short-term challenges in order to achieve that long-term goal. And, if you think about it, where he says, you remember what I said, middle-class people, what's their goal? What's their objective? Comfort. Yeah. And so if your sole objective in life is to live a comfortable life, you're going to avoid the things that cause you pain. And oftentimes that's challenges. Going through challenges are not easy. Starting a business is not easy. If you want to be comfortable, starting a business is probably not
not the
way to go, because
not the most comfortable
no,
thing.
it's not. It's going to put you in situations that you're not comfortable with. It's going to make you live through challenges that are not going to be pleasant. And so middle class rarely gets ahead because they're not willing to make those sacrifices and do those things that get them out of their comfort zone. But getting out of that comfort zone is often required to improve in life. I mean, you hear it said all the time that, if it was easy, everybody would do it. And most good things in life are that way.
Not so easy. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with middle class. I'm not trying to harp on the middle class or anything. It's what you want in life. If you want to live a happy, a comfortable life, and you don't feel like you need some of the things that come along with the freedoms of being wealthy, then that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just, you have to decide what you want. And if you want more that freedom that comes with being wealthy, and the freedom that it really brings you, you're going to have to go through some more difficult things. And that's just usually the way that it is.
It reminds me of something that I've talked about, in other venues for a while, and that's that it seems to me that there are two types of people: those who avoid those who avoid pain, and those who seek pleasure.
Uh-huh.
And so, there are definitely there are definitely pros and cons to both approaches. But what you're saying is, if your goal is to build your wealth, to build your company, to continually improve your situation, then avoiding pain, or seeking comfort, the way you put it,
you're not
is not the way to get there.
Yeah, you're not. You're not going to get there.
Okay. Well, so how else do you want to relate this to our topic today? Why are you bringing all this up with the challenges that you faced this month?
So let's talk about why I'm bringing this all up right now is because we're facing a uncomfortable situation and a little bit of a challenge. So Vinny just a few days ago quit.
Oh man,
he was our second driver.
Mm-hmm.
He only drove for us for about a month and a half, but he had kind of a life-changing situation happen to him that made it so that he no longer wants to drive. Wish him the best of the luck. He was a great driver while he was with us, did a really good job. But so now what's happened is the timing's really not very good for us because we just
bought a new truck.
We just bought a third truck. And so guess what now? We've got 3 trucks and
one driver. Yeah, you only have what's Mike?
Yeah. So we've got 3 trucks and 1 driver. And one of those trucks has a really big truck payment. We just talked about that now.
Right.
So that's one of those things that, okay, now all of a sudden we're in a kind of a stressful situation because we've got to hire 2 drivers, get 2 trucks going down the road. And, it's just, it's stressful. It's a challenge, but it's kind of that thing. If you've got that short-term comfort mentality, it's really easy to kind of get sucked into the difficulty of the situation and forget about the long-term perspective. That's why it's so important, as Smith says in his book, to really have those long-term goals so that you can say, okay, I've got to get there. To get there, I've got to get through this challenge. I've got to be able to solve these problems. And if I can do that, ultimately I'll achieve that goal. And you've just got to be willing to not get sucked into the short-term challenges.
The despair.
And the desire for nothing but comfort. You just have to realize, hey, this is one of those things. This is part of business. This isn't the first time I faced challenges like this. I mean, it's not the first time you've been with Haulin Assets. We faced, similar type challenges. It just, that's the way it is. I've got other challenges going on in some of my other businesses that are like that. It's, I've got enough businesses and we're big enough now that there's
going to be something.
There's always going to
be
something on.
Yeah.
And
so what is the, we can talk about the long-term solution, find another driver, find 2 more drivers. Short-term though, are you going to be getting back into the truck, or is that not in the cards for you?
We're not right now. That's not in the cards right now. I'm not going to say that couldn't be something that happens, but I'm not overly concerned about it because we've done some of the things that I've been preaching. We've saved some money. We've got some assets. It's not like if we don't have a truck on the road in the next 2 weeks, we're going to go out of business because we can't make payments.
Right.
We're not in that kind of a situation. We've been smart along the way. So it's stressful and it's challenging and it's not something you want to have to deal with, but it's not the end of the world either. I know that we're going to be able to solve it, and we'll get there and be able to, it's a temporary setback. We'll get further down the road. It just take us a little bit longer.
So this might as well be our impact tip for the day, right? Think like a millionaire, think long term, right?
Yeah.
Something like that.
I didn't have an impact of the tip for the week.
Sure, you did. This was it. This was it.
Look at you going, just pulling things out of thin air on the fly.
Oh, I had the help of Keith Cameron talking about millionaires. No, I think that's I think that's really interesting. It's a good tip. It's a good way to think. Again, I'd have to read more of the book. I have questions immediately coming to mind, but it sounds like a good way to think about running a business, keeping that long-term mindset.
Got to keep that long-term goal, and just to kind of wrap things up, I would say the lesson that you should get out of this section of the podcast is just, learn to think like a millionaire, think long-term, make yearly goals. Yearly goals are awesome. They're kind of a pain to do. You may not think like they're that important. And it's another thing that we've talked about, but do it. And then don't let yourself get bogged down and bummed out about, the day-to-day challenges that you face. Keep that long-term perspective and you'll be fine. You'll get through it. Sometimes you just have to, put your nose to the grindstone. Is that how the saying goes? Something
sure.
Like that?
Yeah. Something, I don't know.
Just be able to grind it out. That's one of the things that I've found that has helped me be successful in, whether it's in my military life or civilian and family life, to just be willing to, hunker down and just, grind it out when you need to.
Yeah. We need new and better cliches, Chris. That's as a society.
Your job. I'll let you do that.
Oh, is that my job as the host to find some better
I've got
cliches?
to deal with finding a driver and getting all this other stuff going. So you can figure out what the cliches should be.
Well, this is so that'll be this week's call to action for our listeners. I want, I always have something that I want people to go comment on because I love seeing people's comments. So go to Facebook, go to HaulinAssetsLLC.com, go to YouTube, search Haulin Assets. And leave a comment with the all-time best trucking cliches, or either that. So there's the all-time best ones, or maybe some obscure sayings that I need in my tool belt as the host here. I would love to get some more of those. So yeah, go comment there. We'd love to see you in all those places. Chris, any final thoughts? Or are we good for this week?
I'm good.
Okay. Well, thanks everybody for listening. I appreciate having you with us, and we will see you in a week or two when we talk about our March financials. What month is this? Am I right?
Yeah.
March financials.
Just to give you a little bit of a tease with that, things are looking pretty dang good for March.
Really?
Yeah.
Even with the challenges you just talked about?
The challenges really started happening at the end of March, and they're going to show up more in April. But I'm excited about March. Okay. I can't wait to share the numbers.
Well, I'm excited then. All right, everybody. We will see you then.
See ya.